Hello guys, and welcome back to this video. This video is gonna be a bit different from our usual videos because we are going to wonder what it really takes to be a true Norwegian. Yes. So Norway. That's not a country that in Europe we know much about, and that's because generally there is a huge difference between what are considered the Nordic Scandinavian countries and basically the rest of Europe, right? And what is considered Southern Europe, right? Southern European people are very different, and I guess that when we say different, we mean that climate here has had a crucial role. Let's make an example. Southern European people have lived in a warm climate, right? And so somehow the personality connected to people that live in warm climates is that of very expansive people, very much extroverted, and I'm talking about generalizations, of course, right? But it's more connected to those kind of stereotypes, generalizations, right? And for Norway, the climate has had, like for any other cold country, a certain impact, specifically when the environment is so unhospitable that it's difficult to imagine even, how Norwegians truly live in that sort of climate for somebody who is, for instance, a Southern European. But today we are going to discuss what it really takes to be a true Norwegian. And of course, this is a hypothetical speech because it's like saying you're not really Italian unless you like pizza and gelato, and then what happens if an Italian doesn't like pizza, gelato and soccer? That is not gonna be Italian? Like, of course that's not the case. But there are certain elements that here we are going to investigate. So number one, we have necessarily to restart from that environment and that climate, and that is mostly because that has created a certain type of community that are fishermen and hunters, and that has a certain impact on a society. For instance, Norwegians traditionally in their history have not had a centralized or an extremely centralized government, and what that has led to is a form of individualism. Now, individualism is extremely common in many countries, not just Norway, but of course this type of individualism is strictly correlated to the social, not very much hierarchical structure that was never really present in Norway. And this form of individualism is the reason, if we want to call it like that, behind which we can explore certain specific traits. For instance, what is like aesthetic temperament, somehow like a coldness that is perceived by other people, the fact that they don't really enjoy very large gatherings where they meet each other, so much so that if you are in the company of a Norwegian person and he's or she is talking to someone else, you're not going to get introduced to the other person, and that's not as a sign of disrespect, but as a sign of let's keep things private and let's keep things for ourselves, right? So there's that form of individualism, which is also probably the reason why they excel in winter individualistic sports, but there's a lot of advantages in having had a decentralized social structure. For instance, advantage point number one is that there was never really a religion dominating over the social structure and imposing a certain type of unity. And if there's no other religion but that of nature, that makes people be very egalitarian. So just to give you an example, There's a strong sense of equality between men and women, and there's basically always been that sense of equality. So much so that there were gatherings where men and women were voting, and Norwegian democracy is way older than even ancient Greek's democracy, that however has received more attention by scholars and experts and historians. So if those are the preconditions of understanding Norwegian society, then we also have to say that that sense of egalitarianism has been transmitted and is still very much present. Olaf V, who was the king of Norway, father of the actual current king of Norway, Olaf V used to take the bus and pay the ticket on the bus, right? So that means egalitarianism that at the same time is correlated with very low sense of corruption and more higher moral standards, if you want to put it like that, and less corruption compared to other European countries. More sense of honor, less sense of what is the shortcut I could take to do such and such. But that has also led to thinking of prison and prison systems in a way that is importantly different from basically the rest of the world. It is sufficient to think that Norway and other Scandinavian countries, for the record, have the best prisons on earth. They're super technological, they're endowed with a bunch of things actual normal prisons in the rest of the world do not have, like video games, TV on the cell, internet, libraries. There are libraries, but like the access to the library can be made really difficult to incarcerated people, and none of that is present in Norway. It's exactly the opposite. Plus, they have fields, and that has contributed to creating specific places where you can spend your time and serve time basically, and consider that as prison, which is not exactly prison like. Meaning, for instance, there are little houses on remote islands, and you could serve your time there, have some sort of curfew, and then go back and use that time to actually rethink your life and think about what you have done and how you can improve your life from that point onwards. And there's also, for the record, a very low criminality rate, which is quite something, I would say, considering where the world is going. But there are also certain traits that are very interesting to the rest of the world. For instance, one would be very slow TV. So there are like TV shows that will last like 9 hours, 10 hours on knitting, something that is inconceivable in a fast paced sort of TV in other consumeristic societies, like for instance the US. So there's slow TV, that's a very interesting point. There's an attempt to cultivate as much as possible reading. That is why libraries are national libraries. They are full of volumes, they are free, and anyone can access to any library. There's an attempt to invite more and more people to write their own books and express themselves through writing. And universities are structured in a way that, for instance, if you do intend to do a PhD, you get paid rather than you paying, which is like how the rest of the world thinks of PhDs, for instance. And so there are very counterintuitive, if we do take into consideration the rest of the world, counterintuitive trends and traits that are very specific of this culture. Some are extremely traditional. For instance, bundes, that are Norwegian traditional clothing for typical traditional ceremonies. And each Norwegian spends something a little less than 6,000 just to get their own buntas, which is amazing because you would only use it for those ceremonies you participate. But anyway, it's like a wedding dress for the rest of the world, right? You spend a lot of money just for possibly what would be one time, because then you don't want to reuse it for a second marriage. But anyway, because it would bring very bad luck. But anyway, so there are those traits that are very traditional and very old, very much eradicated into Norwegian culture. And one of them would be, for instance, pickled herring first for breakfast, which would be totally not digestible to my poor stomach, for instance, right? But other traditions are very cool. One is known with the term of kos and is a shared, if you like, tradition among all the Nordic Scandinavian countries. In Norway, takes the term of kos and is to do something that is beneficial to your soul. So that's very positive. It could be a walk outside, a walk climbing the mountain, it could be a hike, it could be anything else. So some type of activity that is really beneficial to your soul, that allows you to connect with your true self. So that which we all should import and take probably from the Norwegian culture. And another tradition which has been somehow used, for instance, something about certain movies, is that of trolls, which I find amazing. There are different sorts of trolls. They come from Norse mythology. There's a way of re-elaborating and reframing the figure of trolls, that is to go from very bad creature, very malign creature, to very benign creatures, and then they could inhabit whatever place. It could be a cave, it could be the forest and whatnot, and they all have their own traits. But trolls is one of the many symbols. I would say that trolls, along with penguins, are the two most important symbols of the Norwegian culture, and anybody can be free to disagree with me, but those are some elements of what it takes to be truly Norwegian. So guys, I hope you have enjoyed the video, and of course it was a partial video, because a culture cannot be summarized in a list, and being part of a culture entails way more than what we have said. But we hope you guys have enjoyed this video, and if you have, please don't forget to comment below, let us know your thoughts, and of course subscribe to the channel, hit the notification bell, support the channel, and thank you to everyone that has done that so far, and we'll talk some more next time. Bye!